Cool. Very cool.
I think they are my hobbies.
All right. All right. Reading is a great hobby. Really, really enjoy it. Okay, so who do we have next? Shahzoda Sharapova.
Yes, good afternoon.
Afternoon. So, where are you from and what do you enjoy doing? How about that?
I'm from Samarkand,
Okay.
Dilshoda. I
Uh-huh.
know Dilshoda. We were studying math together.
Okay.
I'm also interested in math and I'm crazy about tennis. I like play tennis.
Tennis. Table tennis or just big tennis?
Big tennis.
All right. All right. Very cool. Okay. Who do we have next? Malika Alimjanova. Okay. Yeah. Malika, are you there?
Yes, of course. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. All right. So tell us about yourself a little bit. Where are you from?
I'm from Navai region.
Naui. Wow. Very cool.
Yes, from little town which called Zarafshan. I think you don't know.
I've been there.
Really?
Yes, I've been all over Uzbekistan. There hasn't been a place that I haven't been, I don't think.
Good. Excellent.
Okay.
And my hobby is playing piano.
Piano. Very cool.
Yes. Yes. And listening to music. I really like listening pop music.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Let's see. We have a lot more people joining here, so we might have to. Well, do you want to, Rusar? Do you want to wait another maybe 3 to 4 minutes before we get started and continue with the introductions for now? Hello, hello.
Go on with introductions, no problem.
All right, all right. So in my list, I've got Sardor Shoazizov next.
Yeah.
Sardar, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Guys, if you can turn on your cameras.
All right. So Sardor, where are you from and what do you like doing?
Mr. I'm from Tashkent and I'm 20 years old boy and not without reason I entered university because beforehand my English tutors and my friends suggested to me this university because as they said this university contain much more sociable and proficient like tutors than other place and I guess that from second year, I guess I will move to United States to challenge myself, and I don't know it was my dream since my babyhood. And for this reason, I entered to this university.
All right, I'll be honest with you. I probably heard about 30% of what you said because it was really difficult to listen.
You are echoing.
Yeah, there's a lot of echoing. I don't know why, but okay, I think I got for the most part what you're trying to say.
Let's have a couple of more introductions and then we're gonna get to the topic. Anybody wants to say about what they're interested in and where are they from? Do we have more people from the region or everybody like others from the Tashkent?
Yeah, feel free, guys. Just hop in. How about Sardor Toktasinov? Did I pronounce his last name right?
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon.
Hello. All right. So how about you give us a small intro?
I'm me also from Tashkent. I am fourth year student in Webster University.
All right. What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing?
I like reading books every week. We have a book club which have 20 people, and every week
Now,
read
is that book club part of your university or some other external club?
No, it is just my friends. Just I find them in the internet, and
Okay.
every week, every Sunday, we meet them and discuss the book which we have already read.
Very nice. And are you guys mostly into novels, or what kind of books you guys read?
We just choose the type of books every week. For instance, it can be motivation, historical, or story, just etc.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, in terms of book reading, is that in English primarily or some other language?
Just it depends on our just choosing. We can choose English books also.
Okay, but what's the
but
primary language?
yeah, usually we read in Russian.
In Russian.
Yeah,
Because there are
because
probably
we
not enough books in Uzbek, right?
yes, yes, in Russian because our group mate or just friends, my book club friends, they speak in Russian, and that's why. But
Very nice.
around 10 people who can speak in English,
Hmm.
can read in English.
That's great. That's great. Well, we have a
That's-
bunch of people. Looks like probably about 20 people joining now. So is there
We have-
anybody else who wants to share anything? We have a few more names. There is Adelina, also a few other people. You guys, anybody wants to share anything? Or a few other guys down on my list as well? Because we'll probably get started in a few minutes.
I joined recently, and I don't know what's going on. Can you see the topic or something like this? What we are going to cover today?
Yeah, I'm gonna get started in a few minutes. I don't want to reveal it yet, so that's why we're doing some introductions. But we were gonna wait for 15 minutes for everybody to have the ability to join. So in the meantime, we're just doing introductions. So now that you've spoken, how about you introduce yourself? Where are you from, and what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing?
Okay, my name
Ooh,
is
nice.
Farouk.
Love your background.
Thank you. My name is
Alright.
Farouk. I'm 19 years old. My hobby is video making and photography. Actually, it's my profession. I connected them both, and I earn money on that. And in my free time, I shoot something creative for my Instagram and for my portfolio.
Wow, you're a photographer.
Photographer and video maker, both together.
All right, very nice. Well, that's my industry. That's my area of expertise. So that's what I do. That's what I do professionally as well.
You also work in this field?
Yeah, today I'm a blogger photographer, but primarily I've been in IT all my life. But I'll go over my background in a little bit.
Yeah,
So we'll go
perfect.
over all that. All right, that's very cool. So you enjoy taking pictures, Farrell?
Thank you. Yeah.
What do you shoot with?
You are asking about my camera
Yes.
or what I shoot?
No. What do you shoot with your camera?
Just for the orders from the commerce video,
Mhm.
commercial videos, I shoot on a Sony A7 III.
All right.
And for my personal shoots, personal photography, or just what I want for hobby, Canon 77D.
That's very nice. All right. I'm very well aware of those two cameras. I'm a Nikon
Yeah.
shooter myself, but I've shot with pretty much every brand, including Sony. So haven't been really a lot into Canon, but I'm very familiar with the brand, and at the moment I'm testing the Canon EOS R6, which is their
Wow.
new mirrorless camera.
That's
Couldn't
really
get
good.
the R7 because the R7 is just not available anywhere, nowhere to be found.
Mhm.
But Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's cool to have someone. Anybody else doing photography, or are you the only one in your class?
I guess somebody also here take photos,
Yes.
but I guess
Now,
they do it
we also,
for hobby.
All right.
we
And somebody
also
else was
first
talking.
yeah, first year in media studies. Now I got a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
Uh, just I'm in media studies now, first year,
Okay.
and in the future, which what kind of jobs I can find, I can work in the future. You have any ideas?
For media,
Yeah, media studies.
understood. But media is a huge field. There's so many different things you can do. So
For instance,
everything
Asim,
from
I think it's something like we used to have communications major before, now they do it media studies.
it's called media studies now.
Yeah, but before it used to be
So
all
I mean, it
communication.
spans from journalism all the way to probably videography, photography, right?
mm,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. It depends on what you want to do, but we'll talk about it later, okay? So let's not jump. There are a few things I want to talk to you guys about today. To be honest, okay, so for those who just joined and for those who are wondering what today's all about, I actually did not want to reveal what I'm going to talk about because it's a fairly in-depth topic. There are a lot of things to talk about. So if you guys are all ready, how about we get started?
mhm.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so here's how I want to have this format. I would like to, first of all, I want to make sure that everybody can hear and see me. And if you can't for whatever reason, then I hope you can rewatch it later, or maybe somehow, like if there's a problem, just let me know. Okay, if I need to repeat something or if I go too fast, then let me know. Because some right now, and just to let everybody know, it is 2:17 a.m. Colorado time. So I am really tired, trying not to fall asleep. So I'll try to be as alive as possible, but I can't promise. So anyway, let's get started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up a presentation. I've got a PowerPoint here. So let's do screen sharing. There we go. And let's get started. All right. So everybody can see my screen, hopefully. Let's fire this up. All right. So now the only thing is, let's see. Enter the waiting room. What is that? Okay, let's admit her. Okay, so can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
all right. So here's what we're gonna do. The topic of today is literally called "How to Achieve Anything." Okay, and I'll talk about why I picked that topic shortly. But before we get started, I'm going to first talk about myself. Okay, so I am originally from Fergana region, from a little town called Margilan. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. That's where I grew up. First started in Fergana State University, then transferred to Tashkent State University. It was Tashkent State Technical University. And then from there, after my second year, I studied abroad at the University of Colorado at Boulder for 3 years, and that's where I graduated from. I've been in the United States for 23 years now. And all this time I've been in Colorado, but I've resided in a number of different places before, didn't like them. So I ended up winding back to Colorado. Kind of have been here a resident for pretty much ever. My primary field has been information technology. That's where I spent about 20 years of my life. And I started even before going to university. It was my hobby at first, and then it became my professional career. And then I changed some things, and today I'm a photographer slash blogger. I guess that's how I can identify myself. But I wound out with the corporate world and moved on. Just didn't want to be there anymore. But still, in terms of IT, that's many years of experience. So I'm pretty well versed with it. And every once in a while, I use I provide services, professional services as a consultant. My primary field of expertise was hospitality. So when it comes to hotels, any travel related stuff, That's where I was in terms of IT and telecommunications. So I'm not going to delve into too much about myself because you know what? There are far more important things to discuss today. So let's talk about something that I picked. Now, I know the topic of achieving anything, it sounds really cheesy. Okay, so some of you guys might be cringing and thinking, what the heck is this? What is it going to be, an hour of boredom or whatever? I hope not, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, when I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about today, the number one thing that crossed my mind was if I were a student back in my young age, when I was whatever, 18, 19, 20 years old, what would be the things that I wanted to learn? And what do I wish I had done back then? And that's when it dawned on me. I was like, you know, there are a few things that I had to learn the hard way in my life. And those are the things I want to share with you guys today. And, you know, everything that I had to learn in my life, I had to learn the hard way by discovery, by self-learning. And then I realized that after you learn something, you want to share with the world. So that's what I'm going to do with you guys. Now, the good news is what I'm going to tell you today is pure gold. Okay. This is something that, in my opinion, if you guys were to take my advice and do what I tell you to do today, everything you do in your future is going to be guaranteed success. Absolutely. It's a proven track. I know it works. But the bad news is most of you won't listen or care. Okay, so it's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Because at the end of the day, what happens is a lot of people think they're very smart and they are not open for any sort of feedback. They are not open for any sort of advice. And a lot of people think, I'm just going to figure things out. That's just how it is. And especially when we're young. So for those of you who don't care or who are not going to listen or who are going to forget about a year or two, I can absolutely guarantee you, you will come back to this, except probably it's going to happen 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So you either take it or you don't. Now, before we get started, the question I want to ask you guys, and this is for everybody. Now, we don't want to probably do voice because we're going to have people talking over each other. I want to ask you a question. Who did you want to become when you were a child, say 3 to 5 years old? You know, everybody had their dreams when they were little kids, okay? So here's what I want you to do. To answer this question, please write your answers in the chat window, okay? So instead of trying to talk everybody over, go ahead and write it in the chat window, all right? There are a few people who are trying to be in the weird room. Hold on one second. There we go, chat. Let me make sure. All right, so we've got a few answers already. Pilot and racer. Librarian. All right, who else? Okay, guys, please don't hesitate. Okay, everybody has to be active today. All right, we got a potential doctor here. All right. Okay, so please, everybody, write, because this is going to be very important later. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Very cool. All right, keep on going, guys. All right, we got someone who wanted to become a president. That's awesome. All right. And if you want to, you can send messages privately. So if you don't want to announce it to everybody, right, it's okay to do it privately. No problem. All right, we got a racer, web developer, ballerina. Wow, very cool. Stewardess, visual effects editor. Come on. You were 3 years old or 5 and you wanted to become a visual effects editor? Do you know what that was? I hope. All right. Economist, pilot, banker, and model. Very cool. All right. Okay. So hopefully everybody answered. If not, please do join and write in the chat window, because this is going to be very important. Lady, business lady, photographer. Wow. All right. Very cool. Interpreter. All right. And we got more answers coming. Very cool. All right, so here is your life. And I made this graph. It took me more time to make this graph than the stupid presentation. I'm sorry, guys. It's funny. But anyway, you know, this is, can everybody see my mouse, by the way? My mouse
Yeah.
thing? Okay, perfect. All right. Just want to make sure. Now, do you guys also see this part?
Yep.
So if I move, you can see it?
Yep.
Okay, how about I hide that? There we go. And I'm also going to hide this part. Can we, let's see, I'm just going to close it for now. Okay, so this is your life. This is where you're born. This is where you're at today. And, you know, it looks like this guy's actually graduating, so maybe a little bit earlier than that. And this is your maturity. This is where you reach your point of life where you know you've achieved a lot. And, you know, let's say this is your mid-age. And then from there, it, you know, the spiral keeps coming down. You get older and then you die. Okay. So this is a very typical life cycle of every human being. Everybody goes through this sort of a cycle. Maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe it's more wavy. But for the most part, you're going to have your best part of your life right here. Now, as you're growing up, you know, this is also a learning curve. Okay. As you grow up, first, your learning curve. In fact, actually, you know what? I take that back. The learning curve just goes straight up at this point because you are absorbing everything. You're learning all the senses and all that stuff. So your learning curve is straight up at this point. Then from there, it starts to kind of come down a little bit. And right here at your age, you still have the capacity to learn, but most of what you needed to learn has already been done. Okay. So from here on, what it is, it's called maintenance and maybe additional experience. So a lot of experience, more learning happens at this stage. And then as you come to this point, you're already mature. Now, learning continues throughout your life. Okay. So this is not necessarily direct correlation to your learning, but your brain and your body and everything starts slowly giving up. And as that happens, this cycle then starts coming down. So this is a very typical thing. And the reason why I wanted to illustrate it is because we're going to come back to this later. All right. So now, why do we talk about this? So I have a question to ask from each one of you guys. Tell me, what is the most terrible thing? Or actually, instead of telling me, why don't you think about this? Okay. What is the most terrible thing that you're truly afraid of? What's the worst that could ever happen in your life? Just give it some thought. Don't rush with this, okay? Because this is a very important question. The most terrible thing that you're really scared of, the worst thing that could ever happen in your life. And write down your answer in the chat window. Now, this is a private question. So if you guys don't want to share it publicly, it's okay. You can share it privately, okay? And I promise I'm not going to announce anything. So if you guys are ashamed of it, or for whatever reason you don't want to reveal it, that's totally fine. So the reason why I'm asking this question is because it is a very important question that at some point of your life you're going to ask. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So go ahead and write it down. All right. So if you guys don't mind, what I'll do is I'll read different versions, but I'll not tell who wrote it. So if you send it to me privately, I'm just not going to announce who wrote it. I'm just going to read it. Okay. So go ahead and do that. Take your time. If you need to think about this, think about this. All right. So go ahead and take your time. This is very important. Okay. All right. So I've got a couple of ones already. We got losing loved ones, losing parents, to be alone in life, staying alone and poor, loss of people I really love. Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, interesting. Live in vain. Lose my relatives and all the close people. To be unsuccessful and unlucky business manager. Okay. Now, remember, we're talking about the worst possible thing that could happen in your life. Okay. So if there is something that you can overcome, then think about it again. Maybe it has to be something completely different. But feel free to share, because this is important. Okay? Come on, guys. Everybody participate. You know what? I forgot something. Now, can you guys see my screen when I see the chat screen? Or if somebody sends me something privately, can you guys see it as well?
No.
Okay, very nice. All right. That's excellent. Hold on. I'm not going to share my answer yet because I want to hear everybody's first. Okay, so wasting your time and life for nothing, not achieving anything, lose family and loved ones. All right, so this is very cool. As it turns out, that most people answer losing family. Now, if you pay attention to the chat screen, even the stuff that people have written publicly, you will see that losing siblings, parents, and especially children is the most terrible thing that for a lot of people is a huge issue, okay? And this is a very natural answer. The reason why it's natural is because it's quite normal to be afraid of losing very close people. But here's the thing. They've done studies and they found out that in reality, it turns out that people get over death very quickly. And they've done studies where they looked at people who lost their children, their siblings, their parents, and they found out that for the most part, people were able to recover within a year. For a lot of people, it was 1 to 5 years, but most people recovered within a year. Somehow, our brains are wired to be able to cope with death of a family member without any issues. What does it say? It says, for me, when I found this out, and as I was reading about it, I was like, you know, this is kind of strange, but it makes sense because, you know, we've lived over generations of people and people died in war, they died due to hunger and all these other issues, you know, so it happens. And naturally, people have been able to cope with death. So it turns out that it's not the scariest thing. And then I asked my question, what truly is the scariest thing? Now, this answer is for me, so bear with me for a second, okay? What it turned out for me, it was regret. So regret is a very, very terrible thing. And as I thought about it, I thought, so what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you're laying in your deathbed and you're about to go to the other world, whether you believe it or not. You know, maybe your life is over and you don't believe in continuation of it. It doesn't matter. At that point of time, your life flashes back. You think about everything that you've done, all the choice that you made in your life. And if you're going to regret, there's nothing worse than that. Simply because you're going to have all these thoughts in your head. You're going to think, I wish I did that. I wish I did this. And as you think about it, right, all those regretting moments, there's nothing you can do about it. So you can cope with death. You can cope with problems. You can fix your life. You can do a lot of different things, right? You can be very successful or you can just waste your life all you want. But at the end of the day, are you going to regret or not? So for me, it turned out that one of the deepest, toughest things to deal with was regret. Now, if you guys have seen a movie called Magnolia, it's a movie where Tom Cruise plays one of the key roles. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a really, really weird movie to watch. Okay. And, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it just because there are things in that movie that are really weird. And one of those moments is a person laying in bed screaming, goddamn regret. And I don't know why that movie resonated with me for so long. And I thought about it for a long time as well. And for me, just regretting about choices in my life that I could have made and I didn't. Things that I could have done and I didn't. Saying love, you know, giving my love to people that I could have and I didn't. All these thoughts and processes, for me, it was a very, very evident answer that the most important thing for me That would be the most terrible, would be regret. So now let's talk about why bad things happen, okay? Bad things happen because people break down and they're unhappy. Okay, unhappiness always leads to bad things: suicides, depression, lack of motivation. It's all related. Okay, and it's all related because if you think about it, it makes sense. Because when people are unhappy, it touches everything. It has nothing to do with wealth or status, because a rich person or a poor person can be both happy or unhappy. And what happens is these kind of things, the unhappiness of a person and their state of mind, results in broken families, broken children, and a negative environment that surrounds those people. So bad things happen for a good reason, because we create that environment due to being in an unnatural state of mind. Okay, so let's not talk about definition of success. And I know I'm throwing a lot of things out there, okay, but just bear with me for a second. So what is success? Keep in mind that success is not defined by achievements, money, power, none of that. It's defined by your state of mind. That's all there is to it. Because at the end of the day, nobody can define your success more than you yourself. You are your own critic, and you are your own evaluator first. Now, what happens to rich people? Rich people want to get richer. Now, if you look at the statistics today, they will always show, the bottom 99%, the top 1% or whatever, 2%, depends on the country. But we see every country shows the same pattern of rich people getting filthy rich, then the medium class coming down, and poor are getting poorer. And the reason why it happens is because as people get richer, they're looking forward to the next step. They want to move up in their level. You make your first $1 million, then you think, where's my next $10 million? Then from there, it's just 100 million, a billion, 100 billion. Jeff Bezos today, I don't even know what he's worth, but I think he's worth like $150 billion. There's no end to it. If you think about it, like what makes these people want to crave more? Because they are looking at themselves and thinking that this is not good enough. And it just continues. It's a never-ending spiral. Now, when it comes to my personal story and the things I want to share with you guys, I've lived a very interesting life. I started my life in the IT world, started as just a basic IT guy, just helping people over the phone and whatnot. And then from there, I moved on and became rather successful in my corporate life. And back then, when I was your age, when I was a student, if somebody told me I'd be making six figures, over $100,000 a year, I would be just totally ecstatic. I would be like, are you kidding me? That would be my life's goal back when I was a student. I had no idea. And then when I got there, I realized, well, wait a second. So this is what I wanted. Is this it? And then I realized, okay, well, maybe this is not it. I need to see what I can do going forward. Maybe I can get a better title, maybe work somewhere and do more things. And then I got my titles and got more things, I had my titles of vice presidents of companies and all kinds of different things. When I got there, I realized, well, wait a second, is this really what I want? And going back and thinking about it, as you progress in your life, this is how you're going to look at things. As you succeed in one thing, you're looking at the next thing, then you're looking at the next thing, then you're looking at the next thing. And if you look at people, right, you see all these people with huge success stories. You look at, people like Robin Williams, right? Great actor. Man, you would think, what does this guy need? What did he need? And yet he commits a suicide and he's no longer with us now. And then you look at, Whitney Houston, all these other people, you would think they've got everything. They've got the riches, they've got the fame, they've got all these amazing success stories, the best voice in the world, the best actor, this and that. They got their awards. They all got their share of awards and success stories. And yet they were still unhappy because deep inside themselves, they never found what truly was the answer to what they were looking for. They were in a circle, continuous circle going back and forth, just running like a rabbit or whatever, you know, and they could not find the answer. And it has nothing to do with, you know, the amount of money that they had, the amount of success that they had everything. And yet, despite having everything, they still committed suicide and they were still unhappy. And if you look at their stories, there are so many people out there that supposedly have everything that they need and yet they don't have anything. So for me, it was an interesting journey because as I moved up in my life, as I started doing more things and I started becoming more and more successful, I realized that these are the things that I foolishly thought were the most important things in life back when I was young. Because the grass for me always looked greener on the other side. And this is how things are in life, unfortunately. You look at somebody else and you get inspired. You think, wow, that person is so amazing. That person is so awesome. I want to become like them. And then when you truly get there, you realize that's not actually what you wanted. So trying to figure out what success is for you individually is a very important thing. Let's talk about that now. So in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do as an individual is define your goals. Define what you mean by success for you. And this is something you have to do today. And as you do it, you will go back and reevaluate it tomorrow. Don't worry. You know, if you say, today I need to finish reading this book, that's already your success for that day. But then you have to redefine it every day. But you have to know what you want. And that's how then you get to the goals. Once you define those goals very clearly, then you'll be able to do it. Now, if we go back to your childhood dreams and what you really wanted to become. Now, the reason why I asked you those questions earlier, and I'm going to go back to the chat screen and open it up and just read some of these things to you guys, because this is going to be interesting. So just hear this out for a second, okay? We've got pilot and racer, librarian, doctor, cinematographer, surgeon, designer, president, okay, ballerina, web developer, racer, stewardess, visual effects editor, economist, pilot, banker, model, photographer, business lady, interpreter, stewardess, interior designers. Okay, so all these things that you wrote to me about, that you wanted to become. Now, here's what exactly happened in your childhood. When you're a child, okay, so I'm gonna go back to that so you guys can see me, hopefully. Okay. I don't know how to use this thing. Sorry, I don't use Zoom a lot. So anyway, when you're a child, your brain is wired very differently because what happens is you're born, okay? And everything around you is perfect. Your parents are perfect. Your brothers and sisters are great. Everyone is great around you. And you're learning a ton of things. And as that happens, there is a sense of innocence and acceptance of the truth. And you think that anything is possible, okay? This is why when somebody asks you when you're 5, 6, 7 years old or whatever, when you give that answer is truthful. This is something that your heart wants you to do. And yet, as you grow up, as you get older, here's what happens. You go to school, okay, or kindergarten, or any place where there are other kids. This is when you start hearing things like, nah, you're not handsome. Nah, you're stupid. You're an idiot. No, you can't do that. You can never become president. Are you kidding me? That place is taken. You know, and you start hearing these things over and over and over again from other people. And what happens is your universe, which was infinite, okay, at the time when you were wanting to become something, your universe was infinite. Anything was possible. What happens is your walls are starting to get squeezed from all angles. And now you are in a state of mind where you think, no, it's not possible to become a president. Stewardess, are you kidding me? Those guys don't even make money. That would be a stupid job. A model? No, I'm not beautiful enough. No, it's not going to work. A banker? No, that's not going to work. So this is what happens is your mind gets affected by all the external factors. everybody starts telling you, whether it's your parents even, sometimes it's your siblings, your close ones, it could be yourself. You start looking for faults. Now the world is no longer perfect. The world is imperfect, and everything starts to change. It shifts towards you not getting to that goal. And as you go through the process, you get lost. You start thinking, so I wanted to become this, but it's no longer possible. It's impossible to get to that goal for XYZ reason. And as you get older, it gets worse and worse and worse. And then you get to high school. Okay, in high school, it's the worst, because this is where the girls need to be liked by boys, the boys need to be liked by girls, and now everybody tells you you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't. Everything you hear is you can't. So now your world has to squeeze everything into something that potentially might be possible, okay? So this is where it becomes a problem, because then you stop dreaming. And what happens is you become, as they say, a realist. You're no longer a dreamer. You're no longer someone who's looking for a purpose. You're a person who is literally just being told by the environment, by everything around you, that you cannot. So your success in your life from your childhood and your vision, they get eradicated, evaporated, and now it gets replaced by a tunnel vision of yourself or people who want it for you. Your parents might say, well, you know, why do you need to become a banker? Why don't you become a doctor like your dad? Why do you want to become a stewardess when you could become, you know, whatever? And as it happens, right, your parents and everybody tries to influence you, your world is changed. Now, what happens as the worst part of it, as I defined earlier, right, it creates unhappiness, because what you truly want to do and what's in your heart is no longer relevant. You now have to survive. You become a survival in the very bitter world of unsuccessful people, and you become average. And this is what happens to a lot of people. That's why families collapse. That's why, because everything is related. In this life, everything is relevant. Your state of mind and what you do today is extremely important to how your outcome and your state of mind and the mood even of the day is. Everything is related to that. Now, you could have a very negative environment around you, okay? If your parents fight all the time, or your friends fight with you all the time, or you feel insecure about yourself, these things can add up to it. But it all leads to unhappiness. And as you get older, once you graduate, you know, I thought when I went to college, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to college, I'm going to figure things out in college. As I went through college, it was the slowest 4 years of my life. Okay, technically 5 years, but anyway, it was a very slow time, because I was like, when is this going to end? You know, I gotta get this my degree done, because you know I'm gonna go out to the real world and I'm gonna have things figured out. By year 4 or 5, I will know exactly what I want. Guess what? Year 4 or 5, I graduated. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I was absolutely useless. I graduated from university. I have my diploma. I've got my paperwork. So yeah, I was a good student and whatnot. But now what am I going to do? Am I going to go and do management and marketing like I had my degree on? Am I going to do IT because that was my true hobby at the time? I couldn't figure things out. And this is what happens to most people. You think you're going to be able to figure things out by the time you graduate college. And I'm here to tell you that if you are not going to follow your vision, your desire to become whatever you want to become, then at the end of the day, you're going to struggle with choices, because economy, life, pandemics, all these things, they're going to dictate things around you, and you are going to end up making very poor choices. And when that happens, you know that's not the right thing, but it brings you money. So that's where a lot of people get tangled up in. They start doing things and that they're not happy with. And at the end of the day, then they look back and think, well, you know, my job pays the bill, so might as well just keep it, right? Wrong. Because by the time you turn and you become in your 40s, 50s, 60s, especially towards the end of your life, you're going to think, all my life, I absolutely hated myself for doing the things that I didn't want to do. Then you get in touch with the wrong people because you're doing the wrong things. Everything becomes wrong in life. But you, at that time, you are in a mess. You don't know that you're in a mess, but you're in a mess. Okay, and it's too late. That's why it's very important from the get-go. Now, actually, it was even before now, but I'm telling you this today, and I hope that some of you guys will listen to what I have to say today. Like I said, I don't expect everybody to listen. Now, if we have about 20 something, 30 people, 27 people right now. If one of you guys hears and does what I tell you to do, I'd be very surprised. Because in a typical environment, these are the things that you can hear from so many different sources, but most people completely ignore. They choose not to do these things. So I don't expect any of you guys to do anything, but I challenge you. I challenge you and I dare you to try, okay? So the most important thing, going back to your childhood dreams, ask yourself, what made you stop from doing what you wanted to become? What made you stop? And I can absolutely guarantee you that the answer is going to be the environment, people, all these external factors in your mind saying that's not possible, or that there is a problem with it. And that's why you stop dreaming. So the important thing is, once you define your goal and understand what you want, and understand meaning here, not what's in here, but in here, okay? Understanding what you want and working towards that goal without stopping is the only way to get things right. Okay, so let's move on. Now, I want to ask you guys a very important question. Okay, let me just minimize this for now. And this is, I know it's a little off topic, but also has a relevance. What is it? A myth, a lie, or a tradition? How did you really feel when you found out that the Santa Claus does not actually exist? Okay, I want everybody to write their answers in the chat window, because this is going to be fun, I can promise you that. All right, everybody, please share. This is very important. Okay, got a disappointed. What else? Tell me how you truly felt. Okay, and maybe some of you guys, maybe your parent. Okay, here's another question. If somebody, if your parents never said anything about Santa Claus, or they told you that Santa Claus didn't exist from the moment you were a child, then write that too, because that's very important. And it has a relevance that I'll talk about later. Okay, come on guys, be more active. I only have one answer. I need participation. And normally speaking, guys, I don't do this. I don't like doing the web thing just because I like live interaction. I usually teach in front of many people in auditoriums and all kinds of talks. And I usually interact with people, and I find that to be the most engaging thing. But the web, not a big fan.
Welcome to the coronavirus world.
I know, it sucks.
We have a new reality.
I do not like it. I don't like that new reality. I like people. I like talking to people. I'm a people person. All right, extremely upset. I felt strange. I had a strange feeling in my stomach. All right, honestly, felt nothing because I captured my parents hiding presents by themselves. Oh, that's a good one. I don't think that I've ever even believed in him, so I felt nothing. When he came to our home, I knew that is just a simple person. Interesting. Okay, to be honest, that I did not believe he exists. Okay, come on, guys, participate, because everybody needs to. Zara, you should participate as well. I want to know. You grew up during the Soviet time. You believed in Ded Moroz and Snegurочка. Come on. Oh, really? Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so we have a few people who did not believe that these things existed. I always believed, even when I realized that Santa Claus doesn't exist. I don't really understand what that means, but okay, I always believed, even I realized that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Okay, I was disappointed, however, I was quite ready for this. All right, so we got a few people coming in still. I felt deceived. I have seen them get dressed in the kindergarten. Ah, that's a good one. Okay, when I was a kid, I used to believe. Disappointed because I understood that I will not receive a gift. That's a good one. Mariah Carey was the only Santa Claus for me. Okay, that's a really good one. Mariah Carey. However, even now my parents replace Santa for me. Oh, okay. Doesn't make sense to me. Okay. All right. So I'll come back to this, but this is very interesting. And trust me, you guys are going to love it later. Actually, I don't remember that moment because I remember the first time I was too young and a little bit older. But knowing full, I realized that it's a fairy tale. All right. So let's move on. We'll come back to this later, I promise. Okay. So working towards a goal. If you truly want to get something done, the only way to get it done is to truly crave it. Now, when I say crave it, it's everything. It has to be in your mind. You have to dream about it. You have to think about it all the time. Okay, and it's not an easy thing to do because if it's something that you truly want to do, it needs to be your constant state of mind. Now, I'll tell you a quick story, and this is a story that I don't remember where I heard it, or it might have been some random YouTube clip or something like that. I can't remember. But there was a story about a person who really wanted to become successful. And they found a person who they truly cherished, somebody they really thought was doing an amazing job with whatever they were doing. And this person then, they reached out and said, I really need to talk to you, okay? And so in this case, it's an apprentice trying to learn something from the master. So the master says, okay, meet me at the beach. Now, this guy goes to the beach and he's like, why? Why should I go to the beach and meet this master, right? I'm just looking for advice. I want to find out how this guy was able to achieve all the things that he was able to achieve. And he said, so you truly want to get something done, right? He goes, yes. And he told him his dream and what he wanted to do. And he said, how much do you want it? He said, a lot. He said, okay, undress. I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, take all of your clothes, not all of them, just leave your pants on, but jump in the water. And then he went together with him. He said, take a swim. Took a swim, came back, and he said, all right, come over here. He grabbed his head and he just put his head under the water. And at first the guy was like, okay, this is fine. He grabbed some air right before he did that. He's like, okay, that's fine. So he's there for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And at one point of time, his lungs are running out of air. And he's like, oh my God, what the hell? This master he's some sort of a psycho. He's going to kill me. And he started panicking on the water. And at this point, he's shaking. He's trying to get his hands away, but he's holding his head under the water with a lot of pressure. He's not letting go. This guy's going, now he's moving. He's like trying to tear his hands and do whatever he can to free himself, right? And right at that point where he thought he's dying, he lets go. The guy comes out of the water and he says, are you crazy? Are you here to drown me? What the hell are you doing? I only wanted your advice and you're doing this to me? And he said, put your clothes on, come over here, sit down. And he said, during that time when you were underwater, at first you thought it was fine. And then you started running out of oxygen. What did you want the most during the time when you thought that you're running out of oxygen and you're going to die? And he said, obviously, I wanted to breathe. He said, whatever you want to do, if it's truly something you want to do it more than you want to breathe. Okay. Now, the reason why I remember this story is because it's very powerful. Okay, in many ways. One of the main ways is that if you just want to get something done and it's not something that you genuinely crave and really want to get done, it will never get done. So in your thought, you have to, whatever success story, goal you set, it will never get done unless you want it as much or more than normal breathing. Okay? And I really love this story for that reason, is because it resonated. And this person truly, after that situation, understood what his master meant. Because for most people, this is what happens. You have some sort of an idea, something that you want to do, and then it becomes an idea and it just sticks around in your head, and then tomorrow it's gone. Why? Because you never actually wanted it. you never truly desired the outcome. You just wanted to get it done, and then life went on and some things got in the way, and now it didn't happen. Now, there's a little short clip, I think it's a 30-minute video or so, and it's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's called The Secret. If anybody has seen it, please let me know in the chat. But Rhonda Byrne, I think is how you pronounce her name. She's from Australia. She made that documentary. And what she did was actually nothing new, absolutely nothing new. But she made it into kind of this short movie, and it talks about the secret. Now, there's nothing secret about the secret, okay? It's been known for generations. But for a lot of people, it resonated a lot because it truly created something where they understood that, this universe, whether you're a believer or not, it doesn't matter, but this universe revolves around ideas and wants. And the secret is basically that if you truly want something and you desire it very much, everything around you builds up to it, and eventually you get there. So it looks like somebody already seen it. Saw it many times. Okay, Gusara has seen it, but you guys need it. I know a lot of people don't read nowadays, so if you have a chance to read the book, there is a book. But in fact, I do have a list of recommended books later, and I don't suggest you read the book The Secret. The reason why is because, like I said, Rhonda did not write anything crazy new, okay? It's been already found centuries before, which we'll talk about later. So it's been known for centuries. It's something that you don't have to, discover for yourself. But if you don't learn, which I'll talk about later, then you'll realize that you're missing out a lot. The book isn't always better, in my opinion. Sometimes, if you squeeze some material out into a very short segment and it's a summary, in my opinion, it's better. But it depends. Some books are better, and in some cases, just not wasting all day and just watching a short clip is good enough. Sure, notes. Okay, so why do people not do this? Okay, why do people not work towards their goal or define their successes? Just because people don't listen. Pride takes over, and we'll talk about this next. Okay, actually, we'll talk about it a little bit later because I'll tell you my personal story. Now, why do successful people share their knowledge? Okay, a lot of successful people will give you the shortcuts and solutions for a number of reasons. Well, first of all, they know three things. Number one, they won't get poorer from it. Okay, everything that they've done in their life, they can repeat the success. In fact, if you were to take a rich person, and now, unless that person is someone like Donald Trump, where they inherited their money, okay? I'm not going to get into politics, but you know what I'm saying. If a person inherited their wealth, it's a different story. But if a person became wealthy on their own, if you were to strip them of all their money, literally strip them naked, they don't have anything. They will be able to become rich again very quickly. Why? Because they know the ways and they know exactly what needs to be done. So it's a very interesting thing that successful people, they know very well that they're not going to get any worse or poorer if they're just going to share their knowledge. They also know that it's the right thing to do. Now, some people believe in karma. Some people believe in, good things and, earning rewards and whatever. But they know deep inside that at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. And the third thing they know is that most people won't listen anyway. Just like I said, I don't expect most of you guys to even care about any of the stuff that I'm talking about today. And that's why I'm trying to challenge you. Anyway, successful people love sharing their success stories for all these reasons. And this is something that you need to be able to tap into. So the main thing that I want to tell you, though, is you got to be careful because there are lots of charlatans out there and people who pretend like they're very successful or pretend like they know what they're doing. And they're there to sell you something when in reality, they don't have anything. And with the internet today, we have tons of so-called Instagram stars, these people who are self-obsessed and self-centered, who think that they make a difference when in reality, they're nobody. but they create this perception that they have all these amazing successes, and then other people follow them foolishly. So you got to be very careful who you follow. All right, next, steps to achieving anything. Okay, and this is going to be very, very important for you guys. Number one, obviously knowledge. Knowledge is the most critical thing that you can gain now, because as you get older, it's going to be much more difficult to put more things into your brain. And another thing that is really interesting, remember when I talked to you about earlier, where as a child, you have this world full of possibilities where everything is infinite. You know that the world is open around you. You can do anything you want. Well, what happens, as I said before, is all that gets corrupted, right? But knowledge is a way to gain that back. If you don't engage in acquiring more knowledge, your world becomes more and more and more limited. So as you expand your knowledge and you become knowledgeable in more fields, your universe expands and your possibilities expand. So something you always have to keep in mind. So, another thing that I have to tell you, books have always been and will always be the best resource. Now, people could say, education today is amazing. You guys are watching me on a webcast or whatever, and there are tons of YouTube videos. There are lots of resources out there. And people might say, why don't you just do that? Well, the thing is, I'll be honest with you, this presentation, I put it together in 30 minutes. And it took more time for me to make that graph on the third page of the slide than putting all this stuff together. Because these things have been in my mind for many years. I talked about these things to many people who are willing to hear my thoughts and hopefully get some of my advice. So these are the things that I already know. I don't have to recreate the wheel, right? But the difference between what I'm telling you today and a book, if I were to write a book, I would spend far more time, not 30 minutes to put together a bunch of random slides, but something much more concise, precise, something that I'm going to think about for many years before I put it in book form. So in a way, a book is a person's summary of their lives that they're putting into a single book. And even if you don't like, personally, I don't like reading all the works of all the writers. You could go and read so many different poems and, all kinds of novels and all kinds of different things, right? But at the end of the day, you realize that every person had a moment of shining, had a moment of breakthrough. And that person most likely put their best work into a single book. And you can find that by author. You can just look at rankings, and all you have to do is read one book by that one author. And for the most part, you will get the best from that one resource. And there's so many of them, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Keep in mind that people do put their life's work into books. So, they'll live up until their mature time when they believe that they can finally share with the world whatever they know. And that's how they squeeze it into a book. So a book is always and will always be the best resource. If you're not a reader, I can absolutely guarantee you that you will fail. Because if you don't like reading books, you have to realize at some point, whether you're going to turn 30, 40, 50, at some point of time, you'll realize that's the only proper way to gain knowledge. You could not replace books with any online resource, nothing like that, because everything here in mind is attention driven. And when you read a book, you can dedicate attention to sections of book and then come back and reread that. When you watch a YouTube video, you can't do that. You're not going to go back and rewatch something 100 times or try to remember what the guy said. Plus, whatever I'm saying right now, it's not the best way to state things anyway. Whereas in a book, I'm going to think a lot about it. Now, the more you read, the more your universe will expand, like I said. So you have to keep that in mind, because all the possibilities that were limitless before, where you thought that you could do anything you want, it got squeezed because of what? All the external factors plus your own mind. Your mind becomes a limiting factor because you think, well, I can't do that. How can I become a scientist when I don't know science? How can I become a banker when I don't know anything about finance? All these limits and limitations, they start compressing your mind. So another thing to keep in mind is, yeah, lots of people read today, okay? And book reading has become a thing in some places, but for the most part, it's not. It's the attention span of the youth today is like 3 minutes. But for the most part, people who do read, they are not effective readers, because what they end up doing is they spend a ton of time reading novels and the things that, okay, so you can read a novel too for entertainment, just like watching a movie, but at the end of the day, that gives you nothing. It gives you maybe vocabulary. It gives you maybe some new things that you learn here and there, but at the end of the day, whoever wrote that novel, right, they can recreate those novels in many different shapes and forms. And if you're going to just continue pursuing that and reading a bunch of novels, aside from very specific things, you're not going to be able to learn much. What I'm talking about is different type of reading, self-improvement, development, science, all kinds of how-tos, etc., etc. Now, let me tell you a quick story. So I travel the world quite a bit. And if you guys are interested, at the very end of the presentation, I have a few photos that I've taken all over the world. New Zealand, Morocco, here and there. I've been to many countries, but one of the most interesting things that I've encountered in my life, in fact, one of the most amazing human beings I've encountered in my life, there's a person who I call my master, my teacher, and he, out of all the countries, you would think, where would he be? Definitely not in the United States, believe it or not. I went to Jordan. If you guys have heard of Petra, Petra is one of the new wonders of the world. It's located in Jordan. One of the wonderful country, wonderful people. But I met this one guy who just absolutely blew my mind with his intelligence. I mean, when you would sit down and talk to him, and you just could not believe how it's not just a bookworm, it's intelligence in so many ways. And I remember just sitting down and talking to him, and you could talk to him about anything. You could talk to him about religion, politics, science, anything. And he was just well-versed in every little detail. And I remember sitting down and we're talking about US presidents, and he was telling me, you know, in 1982, when this president, and it was in February 22nd, when this president talked to this vice president. I'm like, oh, my mind was just blown. I'm like, how do you even remember these things, right? I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. And this guy is remembering things from God knows when. And so I asked him one day, I said, you know, teacher, I said, how are you so smart? How are you so amazing at remembering these details? Just give me the answer, because I need to know, how do you become like this? How do you become a person like this? And he's wildly successful, by the way. You know, he knows the royal family. He makes, actually writes scripts for television in Jordan. So, and everybody comes to him, the royal family, everybody goes to him, because so smart and very successful. But anyway, I asked him, and you know, he gave it some thought, and he said, well, number one, I need to keep my mind sharp today. So I do that by continuing to read and playing chess. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, I'm playing chess. I don't know if you guys, anybody plays chess here, but always a good development thing, because your brain is engaged. But he said, in terms of answering your question, when I was about 12 years old, and bear in mind, 12 years old, he said, a bunch of friends and I got together, and we decided we wanted to do something amazing. They wanted to read every book in their library. And this is Amman Library in the capital, a huge library. And he said, we didn't want to read every book in the library, because it's impossible. You could spend all your life. But there was a science section of this library, and it was a wall to the left side of the library that contained thousands of books on science. And that's what they did. They literally, from every day, they would come to that library and read books on science. Not novels, not poems, nothing like that. Science. So this guy ended up, you know, once, and it's not just because of this. So imagine at 12 years old, you're just putting so much stuff in your brain, and your capacity of the brain is expanding because you're trying to remember all these details. He graduated as one of the top students from an American university. And I mean, it is incredible. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that not all the books are the same. Not all the resources are the same. Not all the people are the same. You can't just learn things here and there, left and right. Find the right resources and find the books that are relevant to what you want to do. Okay, now I hope you guys are still with me and not bored to death. But anyway, I have a book quiz for those who are bookworms out there. Which author famously said, "A car is not a luxury, but a means of transportation"? Now, chances of you guys reading this author, maybe, but I doubt it. Okay, so if anybody knows the answer to this question, please post it in the chat window. I'm going to be watching it. Okay, anybody? Nobody? We'll come back to that. Ask me later. Nope, not Robin Sharma, nope. But don't you guys like that? Don't you guys like that? I really, really love this. I love this. A car is not a luxury, but a means of transportation. Anyway, if you guys have, if nobody has the answer for it, has anybody seen a movie called The 12 Chairs? No, it's not Ford. Nope, The 12 Chairs, 12 стульев. Okay, no? All right, there we go. Guzara, of course you would know. Okay, if you guys haven't seen the movie, it's a really old movie, but there are two versions of it. Watch the earlier version. It's called The 12 Chairs. And the guys who wrote this book, Ilf and Petrov, they're the ones who have this quote. And I always found it to be right to the point. Absolutely. And this, you could translate this to so many different things. There are so many misconceptions in life. So many people chase the wrong things when they're really simple. Anyway, let's move on. This is the slide that I really want to share with you guys for a number of reasons. Number one, I think, yeah, modern politics, I agree with you, Gusar. Anyway, the reason why I want you guys to read these books is because these are the books that are actually relevant to today, to what I'm talking about. And they also are not wasteful books. These are the books that you will actually learn from, okay? Now, the number one is probably one of my most favorite books out there, The Alchemist. Now, you guys, come on, don't tell me that none of you guys haven't read that book, okay? Because it's a very popular book by Paulo Coelho. And if you guys haven't had a chance to read it, the reason why you should read it is because this book is about purpose and success. And it will be relevant to what I'm talking about. So when you guys read it, you will understand exactly what I meant by it. But it's one of the most amazing books. Really love Paulo Coelho. Definitely something worth looking into. The other book, and I put it number 2 in this list, you would be amazed by how many people out there are so not versed in basic things. Basic things. For example, in the business world, you know, just remembering people's names as an example, right? So I meet with a lot of people, and you would be amazed by response that people show when they just introduce themselves. And you don't just say hey or hi or whatever your name was, you call them by their name. It immediately makes it relevant. Even basic things like handshake. This is the book that will teach you. Dale Carnegie wrote this book many years ago. It's one of the most amazing books on behavior and psychology. How to win friends and influence people. Absolutely recommend it. The third one is James Clear, and this is a more recent book, and I'll talk about it later. It's called Atomic Habits. Very, very important book for a number of reasons, but I'll share some stories later. Next, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, a lot of these books are centered about self-improvement. Self-improvement is extremely important, and this is what I'm trying to press on you guys today. So if you read these books, I can guarantee you your world will change. These books transform people. Your ideas and your goals in life will change after you read, even if you read half of these books, even if you read one of these books, I can absolutely guarantee you that your perception and the things and your outlook in the future is going to change. How to Think and Grow Rich. This is probably one of my most favorite books of all time. Napoleon Hill wrote this during the Great Depression. Okay, now imagine the whole world is collapsing. We think that the pandemic right now is crazy, right? In reality, there have been much more difficult times. Today, the pandemic is being dealt with by the governments. You know, they're issuing money, doing this, doing that. And, you know, still there are fines, there are ways to find sustenance. Now, in reality, during the Great Depression, people were dying in this country, in the United States, by huge numbers. And there were droughts and all kinds of sandstorms, all kinds of crazy things happening. He wrote this book during the Great Depression. In fact, most of these books are really old books. Probably the newest one is The Alchemist. Everything else, and The Atomic Habits, everything else has been written many, many years ago. Dale Carnegie, definitely very old book, and How to Think and Grow Rich. Just imagine that, 1932. This is the time when the guy wrote it, and it's the most relevant book of today. I can absolutely guarantee you. It teaches also self-improvement and wealth. And I mean, I don't like the title. I'll be honest with you. It sounds cheesy, How to Think and Grow Rich. I'm not here to tell you to become rich. No. And you'll see why in a little bit. I'll explain. But this book shows so many things. It's more of a clickbait title to get people to inspire. Back then, imagine in 1932, everyone is dying from hunger, and there's a book that comes out on how to become rich. So it definitely was a catchy title in order to provoke people to read this book. The next one, and this is probably one of my most favorite, again, it's Meditations. And Marcus Aurelius wrote this, God, it's what, now over 2,000 years old, this book. It's a book on philosophy, but one of the most amazing things that I discovered when I read this book is that the humanity has not changed. Nothing has changed. Politics haven't changed. People haven't changed. The questions that we ask ourselves none of that stuff changed. It's crazy, but nothing really changed. And you read this book, you realize that all the things that you wonder about, all the questions and the answers have been provided many, many thousands of years ago. And lastly, The Art of War. Now, the reason why The Art of War made it to this list, Sun Tzu, Chinese warrior and general, wrote this book even before all of this. This is probably the oldest book in this list. And the reason why I want you guys to read it is because although it teaches military strategy, it explains the importance of strategy in life, and it also teaches discipline. Discipline is something that I find lacking in most of the youth today. And you guys are included in that list, because one of the things that people just don't have is patience and discipline. Most people want instant results. You know, I'm going to post my Instagram photo and I want instant likes. I'm going to do this on Facebook and I'm going to get this, you know, all the shares and all the likes. Our world is thriving on instant feedback. Okay. And that's a really terrible thing. And these books, they teach you strategy and discipline, especially the Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So for those of you guys who are asking about the name of the book, I hope you can see the screen. If you cannot see the screen, because I'm sharing it right now, I will send a copy of this to Gulsara and maybe she can share the document. Now, like I said, I put this together in 30 minutes. I apologize if there are any mistakes or some weird things in there. Again, don't look at any of that stuff, but if you guys want the list of the books, I'm going to make sure that I share it. Okay. All right. So a couple of things and a couple of tips I wanted to share with you guys. Always remember a few things. Number one, life is too short. You only realize this when you get older. And remember, I showed you the timeline, that graph, right? When you're young, when you're 5, 6 years old, you can't wait to get older. In your mind, you're like, oh man, I wish I was older so that I could do all these amazing things that the adults do. Then you become a teenager and you're like, okay, this really needs to happen fast, man. I really need to be 17 or 18 because life is going to be over. So you become in this critical state of mind where you really want to grow up. And then you do become 21 years old. And on that day, you were like, okay, so this is it. I'm 21, you know, whatever. And then from there, you start getting older and go older. And as you age, you realize that the time sequence changes very fast. In the beginning, you can't wait to get older. And as you get older, you don't understand how all these years have passed. So the time actually accelerates. That graph, the time accelerates. It goes so much faster. And as you get older, you realize that the time has passed extremely fast. So you are a time bomb. Always know this. Time is the most valuable asset you will ever have. Now, I don't know if you guys, some of you guys might be believers, some of you guys might not be believers. I'll just give you a quote from the Quran. وَالْعَصْرِ Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Allah, God, swears by time, and he says you can gain anything in your life. You will never be able to gain time. And you can, if you don't have to be a Muslim to believe in this, you can find references to this in many books. So many different books have been written on the topic. So at the end of the day, time machine, you know it's bullshit. Sorry for language, but you know it's not going to happen. You will never be able to go back 5 minutes ago even. You cannot do that. You cannot go back. And if you cannot go back, the only most important concept you have to understand is that the time is the most valuable asset you will ever have. If in this presentation, you only remember one thing, I want you to remember this one thing, okay? There's no regaining it, which means that if you're a time bomb and you cannot regain time, every minute of your life is important and how you spend it is important, okay? Next. My personal biggest regrets. Now, remember I talked to you about it earlier, that regret is one of the worst things that I can think of. One of my regrets in my life, as I look back, I'm 42 years old now, and I think back, what are the things that I wish I could have done? Thinking that I could figure everything out on my own. And this is something that you guys are going to struggle with because many of you guys are in that state of mind. Now, you might say, yeah, I'm still a learner, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, every one of you thinks that you're smart. Your brain wants you to believe that. And if you don't believe that, people around you are going to say, oh, you're going to this amazing American university. You must be smart. Everybody's going to say that to you. Your parents are going to be like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You're so good. These are really bad things. Really bad things, because what they make you believe is that you are capable of doing things on your own. And I can tell you one very quick thing. If humanity learned from its mistakes, if humanity learned that it's easier to go back to the smart guy before you and learn from him, we would not be driving cars right now. We'd be flying cars. Okay? The world would have nobody who is hungry. There would be no wars whatsoever. The reason why the world is in its state today is because of everybody who thinks they can figure things on their own, thinking that they're smart. That's number two. Remember, for me, thinking I was smart enough. I wasn't smart enough. You know what? You would think, oh yeah, I can figure that out. Oh, I'm smart enough to do that. It's not, you might not vocally say it. You might not sit down and even, it's just it's back in your head. It's back in your thoughts. You're thinking, oh yeah, I can figure this out. I'll be able to figure that out. In reality, no, you're not smart enough. You never will be smart enough. Just remember that, okay? And we'll talk about that. And the third one, all of these things, they only resulted in loss of time. I wish I knew these things before, because I wasted a ton of time trying to figure things out when somebody else already got it figured out before me. All right, next. These are the things that you can do today. What are the things? Let's discuss that. Number one, as I said, time. Utilize your time properly and start learning about time management. Those books that I gave you earlier, those reference points, they're the best way to assess your time. They're the best way to figure out how you want to utilize every minute of your life. Number two, and I know between the guys here, come on, be honest about it and write it in chat, because I know who you are, okay? You know who you are. Who plays games? Computer games. It's okay. If you don't want to say it publicly, say it privately. Admit it. Come on, this is one of those things. Are you a gamer? Be open. There you go. We got a few people. And be open. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with admitting those things.
But it's very good to play games, Nasim, isn't it?
No, 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 no,
And
no,
I
no.
mean, when it's not in an addictive way,
Das ist nicht fantastisch.
it teaches you that strategy, you know?
No, no. I'll tell you one thing, and we'll talk about those kind of things in a little bit. Games, any sort of games, these are not the type of games that Gulsara is thinking about. Back in the day when they started developing some games, right, they were development games. They were for, you know, figuring out how quick you are, your dexterity level, your, you know, your intelligence level, maybe Tetris, those kind of things, figuring things out, right? Nowadays, all the games are designed only for one purpose, which is to waste more of your time. Now we have RPGs, role-playing games. We have all kinds of online mass RPGs, right? Where like thousands, millions of people are sitting and playing the same game, right? They will live in a virtual world. All of that stuff is terrible. There's nothing good about playing games. So you got to stop it. And I can tell you before it's too late, okay? I can tell you as a former addict myself, okay? It is one of those worst things that you're going to get into, and your time is just going to pass and pass and pass. You'll spend hours and hours on end, especially playing mass RPG games. Those are not good. Number two, stop watching so much TV. Oh my God, all these movies. There's now Marvel Universe, Phase 1, Phase 2, timelines. You know, Star Wars is never ending. It's a franchise. All these things are done for one purpose, which is to create more and more and more people addicted to their TV screens. And in between, there's always ads. You know, they'll show a Mac, an Apple ad here and there, Microsoft ad, Surface, blah, blah, blah. They'll push products and you won't even know about it. It's all subliminal marketing. Anybody studies here marketing, look up subliminal marketing. It's a thing. Okay, so these things are very bad for you because they end up wasting your time. Spending too much time with your friends. Everybody does that. And you're students now. Yeah, it's nice to spend time with your friends, but some people take it to the next level. Right, let's hang out every day. Let's hang out every other day. Let's hang out every weekend. You know, it is a huge waste of time. I'm not saying don't be social. Okay, it's very important to have developed social skills, and they're going to help in your future. But it's one thing to hang out with people who are going to give you something, meaning who you can go to, you know, a club of people who are idiots. What are you going to gain out of it? You're going to become one of them. Or you could go to a book club where there are a bunch of smart people. And what are you going to do? You're going to strive to be better. Maybe there's somebody who's super smart and you want to become like them. So those are perfectly fine things. I'm not discouraging you from doing that. But spending too much time with your friends, even family, is not a good idea, just because at the end of the day, you are going to end up wasting time, and wasting time on the internet. So much stuff on the internet today. God, YouTube, look at YouTube. It's one of the most largest resources in the world. Google still runs YouTube at an expense. It costs them billions of dollars. Well, now they're kind of making a lot of advertising. Now you're not seeing one ad, you're seeing two ads, if you guys notice. But anyway, my point is, you could sit on YouTube for hours on end, and there are channels with millions of subscribers. Their whole purpose is to only get you addicted to the screen. They want you to sit in that platform and never leave. Now, ask yourself the question, why do you have a Facebook app that you go to? And from the Facebook app, if you want to read an article, it doesn't open a browser. You read it within Facebook. Okay? You go to Instagram and you want to shop for something. Now Instagram is offering you shopping experience. It's the same thing with everything else. You go to Amazon app, now you can watch movies on Amazon. Why are they doing it? Because the whole purpose is to keep you locked in their platform. This way, you go to YouTube, you never get out of YouTube. You could go to YouTube and spend 10 hours there. You could go to Facebook and spend 50 hours there. People are so addicted to these things that it is a really, really hurtful thing. Now, just imagine this. You are a consumer. You are being fed advertising. You're being fed all this stuff, and you don't even know it's subliminal. You have no idea that you're being fed all the stuff, but they're doing it for the purpose of gaining. They're the ones. Mark Zuckerberg is the one who's becoming a billionaire, not you. So what does it mean? It means that all these platforms were created only for one purpose, which is to take your time. The moment that your time is taken, advertisers come in, and marketing salespeople push sell product. This is how the internet works today. That's why stop doing that. Playing games, watching TV, spending too much time with your friends, wasting time on the internet. These are all hurtful things. And you might not realize it now. You're probably not going to listen to what I say, but I can guarantee you, you will regret this. Avoid any kind of addictions. And this goes without saying, okay? Drugs, alcohol, sex, all that kind of stuff, okay? There are addictions on so many different levels. And I could go on and on about how bad it is. It's a pit, okay? Drugs are a pit. You start one drug, you know, when I was in college, I was told, oh, you should try to smoke this. You should try LSD. You should try this drug and that drug. And, you know, when I would say, why? They would say, well, you only live once. Right? There's always that other guy. And then another thing is bad influence is always happening around you with your friends. Because here's an interesting thing, and this is a basic psychology 101. When a person is committing something they're not comfortable with, that could be crime, or that could be something as simple as drinking beer. Okay, they know it's not the right thing to do, or maybe they are underage, or, you know, they're not comfortable with it. What do they want? They want company. They want somebody else to be a co-star, co-host, whatever, right? They want to share their guilt. So what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, it's not a problem. You should do it. I totally will do it if you're going to do it, right? And then they start challenging each other. And then by the time you know it, you're doing drugs, alcohol, and doing all kinds of weird things. So avoid that. It's a pit. It is something you are absolutely going to regret, without a doubt. I can absolutely guarantee you there's never been a case where, you know, they even said about marijuana. You know, in the United States, marijuana is legal now. I could literally sit here and smoke pot and nobody can do anything about it. Okay.
You can even grow it in Colorado, right?
You can grow it. You can grow your own as long as it doesn't exceed whatever, but, you know, you can grow it. You can smoke it. Heck, in the city of Denver, where I live, which is the capital of Colorado, recently allowed toxic mushrooms. So hallucinations and all that stuff, they say, oh, that's totally fine. The next level, you know, from here, they're going to allow drugs everywhere. And this is where it's going, okay? They legalized prostitution in cities that happened before. You guys probably have heard of it, Las Vegas and a few other places. Casinos, you know, they can only be done in specific places in the United States, which are, they cannot be federal land or private land. It has to be private land belonging to Indians, local Indians. That's the only way you can have a casino. You know, all these things, they find ways to circumvent the rules, to go around stuff just to be able to do it. And there was always going to be stuff like that you are going to get easily addicted to. I spent 10 years in hospitality, managing a hotel business. We had 2,700 employees, okay? And I managed all of IT infrastructure. When I went to a conference and one of the chief financial officers told us the story about their revenue, it just absolutely blew my mind. It just blew my mind. They said, you know, we give away the rooms for free. In Las Vegas, if you're getting a room for $50 a night, that room is free. The hotel isn't making any money. And he said, do you know how much money we make selling food? You know, people thought they make probably a lot of money selling food. It wasn't even 10%. It was less than 5% for the most hotels in terms of making food. They're 90 to 95% of the money they made was from the casino floors. Idiots coming in with their money, wasting their time, wasting their money, doing their stupid, you know, lottery thing and playing the poker games and doing all that casino shit. Sorry for my language, but you cannot call it any other way. And doing all that stuff for what? And the most important thing is most of these people are below average in terms of income. Believe it or not, casinos, rich people don't go to casinos. Sometimes they do, but they know better because they know they're going to lose all their money. These things are designed to rob people. So avoid them, okay? Don't hang out with toxic people. Here's another one. If somebody, and this is, and again, psychology 101. If a person feels depressed, they want someone to be in on with them. And believe it or not, but this happens. Oh, I feel terrible. And they tell you how terrible they feel all the time. Why? Because they want pity. They want you to feel their pity. And what they're going to do is they're going to drag you into their toxic environment. Now you're a part of it. And what happens is as you get dragged into it, now you're going to be the one depressed. You're going to go through the same emotions this person wants to go through. And this is a toxic environment. So avoid people like that. It doesn't matter who these people are. Sometimes it could be even family. You got to get out of that environment. You have to get out of that environment. Create positivity around you. Do not hang around toxic people. Lastly, anything too much is always bad. I once asked my kids, I challenged them. I've got a 10-year-old, I've got a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And at the time they were a little bit younger, so whatever, 10, 11, 5 or whatever. And I asked them, I said, tell me something that is too much and it's okay. Just name me anything. And they started coming up with all kinds of stuff. Too much love is okay. No, it's not. Because when you have too much love, that's obsession and it leads to trouble. What else? Too much good food. Nope, it's not okay because you get fat. Too much this, too much. There's nothing they could define. These are kids and they're fairly smart kids. And I can ask you same thing. If you know of something too much that is okay, write it in the chat. I want to see it because I've challenged many people. Nobody could come up with something that's too much and it's okay. There's nothing that fits that criteria. Too much of anything is bad. I can absolutely guarantee you. If you disagree, please write. All right, a few more. Now, what if you have no idea? What if you don't know what the hell you're gonna do? You're clueless. You're like, okay, well, I want to become a stewardess and I'm going to this business school and doing this marketing thing. I don't know what I want to become. Well, the answer to that is learn as much as possible and don't be afraid to try out new things. Something at the end is going to stick. What that means is if you have 10 things that you try out, always know one thing. If you learn a skill, that skill will never go to waste. Now, a lot of people are so wrong in thinking, and your parents might do this to you. They might say, why are you learning how to become a carpenter when you're going to business school? Why are you learning how to fly a plane when you will never be a pilot? You can hear all kinds of stuff like that, discouraging stuff from even close people. And I can tell you one thing that you need to do, unfortunately, and sometimes you have to be very nice about it, is to ignore it. Because the world is running on a very niche profession. Everybody is extremely specialized. If you learn a new skill, you will never be hurt by it. A skill is an additional thing you can sell. Okay, if things hit the fan and things are not working out, you can go back and do something different. Okay, and in my experience, everything I learned in my life as an IT guy, I thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to be in telecommunications, handling servers? Am I going to be doing all kinds of networks? Am I going to be doing data centers? Am I going to be doing programming? What am I going to do? I had no idea. I always didn't know what I wanted to do. So I tried it all. I was a programmer, I was a web developer, I was a graphic designer, I was a 3D artist, I did telco, I did IT, I did networking, I did it all. And guess what? When I was in charge of 2,700 employees in a company, right? And I had huge teams and implementations all across the United States. And I had a chance to worked with a global company. We were one of the first to implement enterprise resource planning. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it in the hospitality vertical. Anyway, we had all kinds of crazy stuff that I've done. And at a time, I was well-versed in business intelligence and doing all kinds of things. I knew everything from human resources all the way to managing finance. Right now, I do my own books. I do all of my finances. I run my own business. And I do all my GL books, all accounts receivable, accounts payable, all these things that you might have heard of from your business class, I do myself. And you know what? As a business owner, this is one of the most valuable things I've learned. So I can tell you that a skill is never going to lose its value. Always attain more skills. Okay, so a multi-skilled person is a rarity today. And I can tell you, when you have your resume and after you graduate, your resume is going to be empty because you're going to say, I went to this university, blah, 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 right? I always tell my kids and everybody else, one of the most amazing things that happened to me is I went to a Turkish school, okay, Turkish high school when I was in Uzbekistan. So I speak 4 languages. And one of the most important things that I would put in the beginning, I didn't know how to make my resume. On my resume on the top, I would say languages, 4 languages, and I would list them. Believe it or not, even when my resume was empty, one of the most interesting conversation starters with an employer was, wow, you speak 4 languages. So yeah, and you speak them fluently. Yeah, I went to Turkish high school, so Uzbek is my native tongue, and Russian, I actually went to Russian school, Russian university, whatever. I was in Russian classes, so that's probably my most You know, that's my number one language. And then English, I've been living here for so long, blah, blah, blah. So they would always ask me about languages because that's something that is different. And we'll talk about this in a second, okay? The world is full of talent now, and some things are different. And when they see something different, they get amazed by it. And then they find out, and where are you from? You know, how did you end up here? There's all kinds of it's a conversation starter, okay? So these are things that you guys possess. So you have a competitive advantage. If you guys were to come to another country to work, most of you guys are speaking 3 languages right now. That would be Russian, English, and Uzbek, okay? And if you don't speak that 3rd language, start picking it up. If you don't want to learn Uzbek and you're living in Uzbekistan, there's something wrong with you. And if you know Uzbek and you speak English and you don't want to speak Russian, then you're cutting a lot of corners because you know in Uzbekistan that's becoming a thing. In politics, it's still a very important language to know. And you know, when I'm traveling, I can tell you, heck, traveling in 15 republics of the former Soviet Union, the unifying language is Russian. Believe it or not, for me, if I were to teach my kids, the most important language after English, it would be Russian. Okay, not just because I'm from Uzbekistan, just because of the versatility of a language. You go to any of the stands and heck, anybody can understand you, especially older kind. And you don't need to worry about the youngster that don't. A lot of people are multilingual. You go to European countries, you go to, you know, Switzerland, they speak 3 languages. You go to Italy, they speak multiple languages, especially towards the north, towards Switzerland and all the other, you know, bordering countries. France would not, they all speak at least 2 languages. In some places, they speak 4 languages. And with all the dialects, I don't even know how many dialects there are in different places. So language is an important asset and always have that. It's very good that you guys are speaking languages fluently, but develop that. And how you develop that, read books, okay? And know that anything you learn is never a waste of time. Doesn't matter what you learn. It's never a waste of time, except for things that are completely wasteful, which I talked about earlier, okay? Playing games, well, that's not a skill. If you're like #1 at killing people in Counter-Strike, you know, as they say in Russian, flak тебе в руки. Nobody gives a damn, okay? You're going to succeed what? Among your club of friends? Nobody's going to give a damn. There's nothing you can do with that skill, okay? There are very few people who can make it into a career, and you're not one of them. So don't even try. So remember now, another thing is, with knowledge comes responsibility. Now, if you learn something new and you're not putting it to use, you are being wasteful. What that means is, if I acquire a new skill and now I can do some programming in one language, or now I know finance, if you're not going to put it to use, what's going to happen is that skill is going to be forgotten over time. You're just wasting your time. So with any skill that you acquire, always make sure that you practice it. Just like with languages. You know, I went to Turkish high school. I used to speak Turkish fluently. Well, 20 years of not speaking it did it. When I go to Turkey, I can communicate with many people, but on a very basic level. You know, and my wife, she still watches like Turkish movies and whatnot. I don't have the time for all that, but I lost it for that reason, because that skill is something that you have to practice. So if you learn carpentry, then go and make a chair every year or something. You know, just do something with that skill. Otherwise, you're wasting it. Okay, now, is being smart all you need? Okay, that's a very important question. Now, I'm sure Gulzara can attest to this, and those who have experience talking to other people can attest to this. There are a boatload of smart people out there, lots and lots and lots of smart people out there, but many of them cannot figure their lives out. They just can't. They're so smart, you would think, oh my God, they're just like poof, you know, they're the brains of the world. But those people, they are so entangled in their thoughts and their minds and all the stuff that they do. They want to practice their, you know, doing all of their crosswords and this and that. They cannot put their knowledge and skills and their smart into action. They're lost because they cannot take good use of it. And there are tons of people out there that are like that. In fact, I can share a quick story. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the United States did this initiative where they didn't want to lose talent, the best talent from the Soviet Union, to other countries. And I'm sorry, I know that it's already almost 4 o'clock, my God. Anyway, if you guys are still with me, hopefully some of you guys are, but United States didn't want that talent to be lost. So what they did was they offered immigration programs to people who are extremely skilled. And I personally know a guy who used to be in the Academy of Sciences in Moscow. I don't know if you guys understand what that means. It's basically a person who ended up in Academy of Sciences in Moscow was a crazy nerd scientist. You could only be one of those to be able to even afford a 1 square inch of space in that place. But anyway, I knew a person who was one of them. He immigrated to the United States, and the United States did absolutely nothing with him. They didn't offer him jobs, nothing. They just wanted him not to work for China or for any of the European countries. So he came here, mad scientist. He developed rocketry systems and laser systems for aerospace engineering. This guy was an absolute genius. In life, he was a loser. He lost his wife. He got married the second time, and he couldn't figure his life out. He was a mad scientist, but all the smart in the world, he ended up doing cleaning in places. I mean, believe it or not, this mad scientist is walking around with a vacuum cleaner cleaning places because he just could not find a place for himself. Nobody wanted him. He was so proud of himself, right? He would go to jobs and get a job, and then the next day he's like, talking down to a manager, and the manager fires him because he has attitude issues. These kind of people are lost for that reason. That's why being smart, there's tons of people out there. It means nothing. If you're smart, who cares? I personally don't care. You might be a bookworm. Who cares? I can tell you who cares. Your family, your friends and peers. That's the only people who care about you being smart. The world does not give a damn. I can absolutely, and I'm sorry for saying this, but this is how it is. Being smart means nothing today. You have to be practical. You have to be different. Your education, by the way, means nothing either. I can tell you I hired a ton of people. There were people with all kinds of education, all kinds of skills. One day, a guy brought me a book, and it was full of certificates. It meant nothing to me because the only thing that I was looking for in talent was willingness to learn, ability to adapt, and be different. Because at the end of the day, if you're looking at 10 candidates and they're all the same, what are they going to bring you to your team? If any of you guys want to get into Harvard or any of the Ivy League schools, I can tell you one thing, that the only thing they're looking for today is a symphony. When I heard this, I was like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? A symphony. I couldn't understand it. So they had to explain. A person who went to that school, he said, imagine this. You have people who play piano, and there's 100 of them. Okay, what are they going to get out of it? 100 pianists? They're all going to be boring. Okay, they need a person who's going to do trumpet, piano, bass, whatever, drums, right? They want a symphony. They want it to all work together. People of different backgrounds, different cultures, because they don't want to create robots. The biggest issue with the education system today is that everyone is told the same thing. You're taking a class on economics, on macroeconomics. You think it's any different than the one I've taken 20 years ago or whatever? It's the same freaking thing. You've taken a class on macroeconomics, microeconomics, marketing, management. These classes have been taught for how many years now? And what has changed? Nothing. And I can tell you that the education system is broken for that reason. Is because people are like robots. You're listening to the same stuff that is being repeated over and over and over and over again. And who do you become? You become a mindless zombie because you don't know any better, okay? Your education doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is you wanting to learn something. And if people see that, it's a talent. It's something that you can show. It's something that you can prove. Because people who are fluid, they can adapt, they can change. Environments change, the world changes. Look at the world today. It's completely different from what it was 10 years ago. It's all the internet now. We're on the internet right now. 10 years ago, this wouldn't be possible. I would be sitting with crappy webcams looking at this tiny picture. It would be terrible. And everybody would be on dial-ups and whatnot, very slow internet, right? But now the world has changed. And the only people who can survive in these environments are the people who can adapt and change, okay? So this is very important. So when do you take action? How do you start? You start now, okay? Those of you, that 1% who's actually listening, the time to start is not tomorrow. It's not the day after tomorrow. It's not 10 years from now. It's now. If you want to get something done, you start today. The more you wait, the the more prolonged your journey. You're just going to end up wasting a ton of time. Okay. And this is what's going to happen. And then you're going to regret. Just like I said, remember, goddamn regret. Don't be in that situation. You start now. Being lazy and procrastinating things are your two enemies. Okay. Being lazy, I can tell you, my God, I look at a lot of young people today. The number one trait that I see in them is being lazy. Did you do your homework? I'll just do it tomorrow, procrastinate. Or I was just lazy. I was watching this new Marvel movie. New Star Wars came out. Oh, did you hear this? Did you see The Mandalorian? Oh, yeah, that episode was amazing. Oh, my. They'll be sitting and like, you're just a lazy bum sitting on your ass. I'm sorry for language, but I gotta be direct here, okay? Don't be that, because the moment you become that, that's when things start getting broken. Knowledge is everywhere and it's free, okay? Now, I understand you guys all go to university and you guys are all paying for it, or your parents are paying for it. Some of you are really entitled. I know that too. Your parents are paying for it and you don't give a damn. I'm just getting this education. It's nice, right? Some of you are working hard for it. Some of you might be even paying for your own education, which is very nice. But I'll tell you that there's so much out there and it's free. All you have to do is just want it. Remember when I told you about how you want to breathe air, how you want to breathe these things. You want the result, then you go get it, and it's free. Libraries, heck, how many libraries are there around you? There's tons of libraries. Who goes to libraries nowadays? The bookworm that we talked about earlier, talked to earlier, those guys who read the books, right? You guys go to the library. How many people are actually there? It's a crisis. It's a crisis because people don't care. They don't read. People would rather sit on their damn devices all day long. How much time do you spend doing all the crappy things on this thing, right? Because why? Because that's where the world is revolving. Your friends are there. Your Instagram page is there. You're posting your pictures. Oh, I'm eating this food now. Oh, I went to this restaurant now. This is my dear friend, and this is how she looks. Come on. This is a fake world designed to make you do these things. That's how you end up wasting your time. So you have resources. This, either your enemy or your closest friend. How it's your enemy? When you waste your time with it. How it's your close friend? If you're reading something nice here. So keep this in mind. Anything can become either your enemy or your true friend. Is how you use it. Don't be afraid to ask, okay? There are tons and tons of people out there who are far smarter than you. Remember, my biggest regret? Thinking that I can figure it all on my own. Don't be that, okay? If you have a question, ask. There's going to be a ton of people who will give you advice for free. You don't have to pay for it. And I can tell you, if somebody makes you want to pay for something that is free, move away, okay? Because successful people, they're not there to charge money. What am I going to get? If I can get $175 an hour, what is your $50 going to do to me, as an example? Or somebody like, hey, Warren Buffett does these lunches that people pay $20 to $30 million just to spend an hour with a guy. And what does he do? He just gives that money to charity. It's not for him. That $20 million, he's a $100 billion entity. He walks around, he was worth $120 billion. $20 million is a bucket in a tree. It's nothing for him. So how is that going to help him? He only does it for one cause, so that somebody else can benefit from it. That's it. Because his time is money. Develop strategy and discipline. Okay? You have to develop strategy and discipline. If you don't have it, too bad. Because somebody else will, and they're going to be ahead of you. All you guys that earlier said, oh yeah, I want to go to America and, study there and continue my education. I'm not making fun of you, okay? Don't get me wrong. What I'm trying to say is there's going to be somebody else. You think you're the only one who is going to get into that program? Do you think you're the only one who's smart enough to do that? Absolutely not. There are tons of kids out there from Samarkand, Fergana, Bukhara, from Tashkent. There's all kinds of people out there. They're super smart. So you're going to be competing not on a leveling field. You're competing with far smarter people than you. And as this gets more, there are going to be smarter and smarter people out there. So if you're not playing the level game, if you're not trying to level up, you will never be able to compete with that. So how are you going to do it? If your parents are rich and that's your ticket, then hey, good luck. That's not going to last. Anybody who has been given privileged by their parents, by whoever, they're not going to last. I can tell you how many stories, I could go on and on and on about people who thought that they could do it because their parents are filthy rich. You know, and one friend of mine, he ended up doing drugs because of that. So anyway, my dad didn't give me anything, and I'm very happy for it. I'm so happy for it because I had to work my ass off for every bit of my success. And the same thing should go with you. And I remember, so my previous boss is worth $1 billion. Okay. And I was once sitting with him and I asked him a question and he was like, Nassim, you know, this is terrible. My daughters, you know, I'm trying to leave this business. I'm getting old. You know, I told them, here's a business, just manage it. And they don't want it. And he said, I don't know what to do. I said, Navin, aren't you happy about it? If your daughter said, yeah, oh yeah, we're going to take this $1 billion worth of business and, you know, we're going to run it, would that make you happier? You know, his daughters, they ended up working at some crap jobs in the beginning, you know, Burger King, making burgers and whatnot. And from there went to corporate ladder and started climbing. They're now a success story on their own. Why? Because they know what it means to earn that dollar. And if they were just given that kind of success, it wouldn't last. That's why you hear all these people who win lottery, right? They win a lottery for some crazy number, which is like $50 million. This guy won a crazy lottery for $50 million. What happens to them? Most of them end up being broke after a very short period of time because they have no idea what to do with it. They have no idea how to train themselves to save, to do all these things that are important to be, if you want to become rich, that's your ticket, right? Okay, so develop strategy and discipline. This is your way to do it. And don't try to change everything at once, okay? You know, as they say, cities haven't been built overday. It takes time, okay? Anything takes time. Don't expect that after this conversation, like tomorrow I want to become a genius. No, it doesn't happen that way. Remember when I told you about my friend in Jordan, how it took him years and years and years of going to the library and reading thousands of books to get to where he was. This is natural progression. So the key is to take one step at a time. Now, I refer to a book called Atomic Habits. You guys have to read this book. And the reason why is because there's something called a compound effect. And this is how it works. So say today you were doing something. I'm just going to give some random example. Say that's learning how to, I don't know, what is it? How to play tennis. How about that? Okay. Somebody play tennis. Somebody said they love playing tennis. Okay. So you think, man, you're not going to become a Maria Sharapova in 2 days. It's not going to happen. You know that. So how do you develop that skill to become that person or to get to that goal? All you have to do is improve 1% every day. That's it. And what happens then is it's something called compound effect. Now, if you guys studied finance, microeconomics, you have probably, or accounting level 2, I think, is where they introduce compound interest. Compound interest. Anybody heard of compound interest? How it works?
No, Nassim, this is a freshman course.
Oh, freshman course. Okay. Okay, fine.
It's a freshman course with the first semester.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So you will learn later on in business something called compound interest. Compound interest works like this. If your percentage is 4% APR, meaning 4% for the whole year, it doesn't work like you think it works. So if it's $100, it's not $4. Okay. The way that compound interest works is basically it's interest on interest. As you pay money, you owe interest. At the end, instead of paying $4 out of $100, you might pay 40, or you might pay 60, depending on that percentage. So the way that compound interest works is like this. Say you want to become a great tennis player. If you develop your skill and improve by 1% every day, in 5 days, it's not 5% anymore, because it's 5% plus the previous 4% plus the previous 3%. It adds on top of each other. It becomes a compound effect. So in 100 days, you're not 100% better. You are, I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 300 or 400% better, okay? So this is how you develop any skill. You just simply, you don't do anything crazy. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just become a little bit better each time. And as you do this, you gain the effect of the compound effect, okay? And lastly, I'm almost done, I promise. Take good care of your health. Your body's a vessel, so you got to do it. Don't lie, okay? There's no such thing as small, good, white lie. It's all BS. It does not exist. A lie is a lie, period. Now, I want to see you guys, I want to show you guys something. Look at that. You guys see this? That's a pretty spooky Santa Claus. Okay, so why did I talk about Santa Claus earlier? Can anybody guess? Well, I have the answer right there, but here's what's wrong about the whole Santa Claus idea. You are literally being taught about lie and how to lie at a very young age. So when I had a choice and I thought about it with my kids, I'm like, I don't want to do this, because I remember the day when somebody told me that Santa Claus doesn't exist. I was crying. I was devastated. I was like, are you kidding me? This is like the best guy. And in the Soviet Union, we didn't really have religion per se. It was always Santa Claus, and it's not Santa Claus, it's, Snegurочка, Ded Moroz, whatever. We believed in these things as they were saints. Like, oh my God, he brings presents, And at that age, you believe everything. Your parents will say that the world is square. You believe that because your parents are authority. And when they tell you that there is this guy out of the North Pole and he brings you these nice presents, you're like, oh, how good. This guy's so awesome, and you genuinely believe it. And what happens when you finally figure out that it was a lie, it's something breaks inside you. Now imagine as a child, you're innocent, you have no idea, and all of a sudden now somebody just blatantly told you a lie. You're broken from within at that time. It's a very unpleasant feeling. Those of you guys who didn't believe it from the very beginning, I don't know, maybe you're remembering it a little bit late, or maybe your parents just didn't make a big deal out of it. But heck, we used to go to these things every year at the end of the year, 31st of December. It was like the day that you would wait for the entire year. And we wouldn't sleep all night just so that we could watch these night shows and, all these kind of things and dance around the stupid, everybody did that, right? Back then. And I don't know if it's the same thing happening in Uzbekistan today, but it's a lie. It's a lie that's created for what? There's no purpose. It's not a myth. It's not, it has nothing to do with any of that stuff. You are just teaching a young person how to lie. This is what it is. So it's a very unpleasant feeling. That's why I can tell you one thing. I've hired many people. I've fired many people. The people who I couldn't stand the most were the liars. Because if a person tells you, I can do this, and you count on it, and your boss depends on it, and your company depends on it, and they don't do it, and you ask them why, and you know that they're giving you some BS reason when they just were lazy or they just couldn't do it or they whatever, they're liars. And they will lie to you once, they'll lie to you twice, and that's it. After that, you're done with them. Because something that is very easy to break and that you can never recover is integrity. You can recover many things. You cannot recover integrity. If you are a liar and people around you know that you are, you will never be able to fix that. You have to move on to other people. This is how life is. And if you haven't learned it, you will learn it in your career. But I can tell you that one of the most important traits I've looked in people when I hired them was integrity, honesty, trust. You need to trust your employees. I was never a boss to anybody. I always trusted them to be my friends. I never had anybody leave me for that reason, because they knew that I'm not going to tell them how to do their job, because they were hired to be special. They were hired to be different. Shattered integrity is not something that's easy to fix. When people cheat on each other, it's not fixable, period. You guys will learn this as you get older and you get relationships. I can tell you 100% at a time, there's no such thing. If your partner cheated on you, it's the end of the story. It will never work, ever. There's no such thing, okay? People live in a very screwed up world when they accept that it's okay to do that. Because a trust that's broken is broken. That's it. That person, you're going to have to work really hard. And even then, they will always have doubt, okay? You cannot form good relationships without trust, honesty, and integrity. These are the three traits that you need to possess as a future individual. Seek to find deep, meaningful relationships. They're very important. Start with your siblings. You don't have to go far. Start with your sisters, brothers, parents, children, whatever. Be the bridge. Okay, this is very important. Be the bridge. You are the one who should be initiating those things. Tip on relationships, by the way, this is very important. Sometimes, why do people fight? People fight for one reason, because one person is trying to prove that they're right, and the other person is trying to prove that they're right. I figured out something very, very interesting in my life. And it was, when I figured it out, I was like, this is so simple. This is stupid simple. Okay. Here's how it works. Imagine this. Your friend or your spouse, your sister, your brother, whatever, your friend, whoever, they screwed up, royally screwed up. You know 100% that they're wrong. You are absolutely convinced that they're wrong. Okay. There's not a single doubt in your head that they're not wrong. They are going to defend themselves because they don't want to show that they're wrong. All you have to do is just say, okay, fine, I'm wrong. And you know what? Oh my God, how many situations I was able to fix by just doing this. So imagine this. So your friend is wrong and they're saying, yeah, this happened and that happened. And you say, yeah, you know what? It was my fault. During that time, something absolutely remarkable happens in that person. Their mind is poof, it's blown. They're like, wait a second, what? How? They're not going to say it to you right away because they're in the heat of the moment. But in their mind, they're going to be like, well, I'm kind of wrong, but they're saying that they're wrong and they want to stop this? They don't understand. In the beginning, they're like, this is weird, right? But then what happens is guilt comes in. Guilt comes in when they realize, okay, well, they clearly see something happening because you are the one who's basically admitting the fault, even though they know that they're wrong. And then they start confessing. And conflicts gone. No debate, no fight, nothing. It's crazy, but it works. Try it. If you don't believe me, try it with your brother, sister, parents, whoever. It doesn't matter. Your parents tell you something, and instead of fighting them, then they say, didn't you do this school? Didn't you do this? Instead of fighting them, say, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was wrong. I'll make sure that I try to do it next time. You would not believe what's going to happen next. You just instantly solve the problem. It's crazy. It works. Absolutely guaranteed. Always be down to earth. Come on. People with pride, they don't last. You've probably met people who are obnoxiously like, oh yeah, I'm this amazing top of the line student and I speak English better than everybody else and I'm a programmer and I'm, whatever. Who gives a damn? Nobody gives a damn. Those people who have this pride thing, they're not going to last. And, if you're a believer, know one thing. There's no admitting to heaven with anybody who has 1 gram of pride on them. If you think that pride is ever going to get you somewhere, you're completely wrong. If you have a class, and I remember talking to one kid, and this really blew my mind. And this kid is extremely smart. He's from Uzbekistan, and he's a son of my friends. And I was talking to him. I love talking to children, by the way. And I was sitting talking to him, and I said, so, tell me some interesting stories from your school. And he said, oh, you know what? We had this debate today. It was an amazing debate. And I won. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I was so good. I won that debate so hard that the kid that was in the debate, he just did this. And he started crying. I said, why did he cry? Because he was just blown away by how bad he was compared to me. And I said, really? So you felt what? That you were so amazing by literally just bringing someone down? You felt amazing by making someone feel terrible? And when I started asking him these questions, he's a good boy, but he doesn't realize this, right? He's in a good school and, he speaks super good English and he's super smart, without a doubt. He's extremely intelligent. But being proud that you were able to destroy someone in some stupid discussion, really? These people don't last. And I had a really long conversation trying to explain to him how wrong it was to think this way. So know this, if you have 1 gram of pride on your body, you get rid of it because you are a nobody. In front of everybody, you are a nobody. Keep this in mind. You know why? Because at the end of the day, everyone is equal. Everyone is created equal. End of story. There's no such thing. If you think that you're good because you go to this good university, there are thousands of kids who are better than you. Okay, that's it. I have to be realistic here. So get rid of that. Learn how to communicate with anybody. You know, I see so many problems with today's youth. You know why? Okay, this guy comes and he's 16 years old, and there are a bunch of 18-year-olds sitting in the room. These 18 years old kids do not want to accept a 16-year-old kid because he's too young and stupid. Okay? This is a huge problem. You need to be able to talk to a child who's 3 years old. You need to be able to talk to an elderly or a scientist. With each person, you need to be able to find communication. How do you do that? Knowledge. You don't have to go far. Everything I told you so far, if you were listening, you're going to be able to easily do that. But if you think you're better than anybody else, this is where you're going to run into problems, because you're always going to think, oh, that kid is stupid, or he's too young. He won't understand. And this is the wrong way. Once you start having your kids, you will understand. Never chase after money. This is something that my father taught me. And I'm glad, because this is one of the most important life lessons that I did not have to learn. My dad told me this. He said, it's a never-ending pursuit. You will never have enough. You just can't take it with you to the grave anyway. So what's the point? Money is a tool, nothing else. Do what you really want to do and do a great job at it, and money will come with it. This is what he told me. And you know what? I can tell you with honesty, everything I did in my life, I never ever focused on money. I never thought about it. But everything I did in my life resulted in me getting tons of it. How? But it just came on its own. I didn't even have to work for it, because I was good at what I was doing and people wanted to pay me. This is how it works. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just do a good job, and that's it. All right, so hopefully you guys aren't completely asleep, and hopefully you guys aren't like passing out. I know it was what, 2 hours that I spoke. I'm gonna have a
It was a
sore
little
throat
bit
tomorrow.
more than 2 hours, and you're doing a very good job that you are not sleeping. I think it's almost down in the
Yeah, it is.
Colorado.
It is
It's
4:16.
sunrise.
It's
Huh?
4:16. Yeah, it's 4:16 now. So I'm gonna be zombie tomorrow, but it's okay. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And so here's what I want to do now. I want it to be, I'll be honest with you, I don't do this. Okay. I don't like just talking. I like talking to people. I like asking questions. I like more intimate setup. So if we could now be more engaging, whoever is muted, if you guys want to like, hey, I want to say something, or just start talking.
Yes, come on.
Okay, ask me anything. And if you want to ask me, how do I do this, or how do I achieve this, this is the best time to do it. Now, okay, so once again, I hope I wasn't too out of line. I don't really do this. Okay, I teach photography. I travel all over the world. I teach all kinds of different things. This is something that I wanted to share with you based on my prior experience in my prior life. I just wanted to share this with you because I wish somebody did this to me when I was your age. I wish I could turn back the clock and do the things that I know today, but I can't. So take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, I'm not perfect. You know, there are tons of people out there who are far more interesting to listen to, far more engaging, and will probably give you more information. But if you even do one or two things from the things that you heard today, I can tell you it will save you a ton of time. All right, so let's open it up now for questions. And whatever you guys want to ask, go ahead and shoot. And let's have a discussion now.
Oh yeah. Firstly, I have to mention that it was like great speech, I can say. Last time I have watched Championship for Public Speaking, and your speech was like a professional public speaker. It was just a great job, sir. And,
I appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much.
And I admire you are from Uzbekistan, you are from Fergana, and you have already achieved success, I can say, in America, and it is like example for us. It can be example, great example, sir.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm here to inspire you guys. That's all I want to
It
do.
was,
It's just one,
it was
like I
so
said. Right. Now, do you have a question?
uh, no, I don't have a question. But
All right,
I
well,
have to think.
How about this then? Thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it. Like I said, this is not something that I'm very used to in terms of giving, but
Thank,
I
thank you for
wanted to do this because this is a way for me to give back. Okay, I'm from that country. I never felt that the United States was my homeland. Never. I always knew that my homeland is there, and I've been thinking about many ways of giving back. This is one of them. And you know, I'm gonna do more of this kind of stuff, and I'm very open. So, like, if you guys need anything, let me know. Okay, like I said, the world is full of people who are willing to share. So think about questions, Sardar. I know that you might have one or two, and if you have questions, shoot. Okay, I got
I got a question. I got a
okay.
question.
All right, shoot then.
Why you went to America, to US? Why you want to go there and study there?
I'll be honest
Reason.
with you. The way that it worked out for me is I won a scholarship. So I earned my ticket. Everything was paid for by the government. I had to, everything was paid for. I had to work back and pay off. So I had to go back and do some service for the country. And then some portion of it I even had to pay off, you know, after a while. So I ended up being here because of the scholarship. But one of my things was I really didn't crave to be here, to be honest. I kind of happened. It wasn't my crazy dream to come to the United States. I don't know why. I was quite content with what I was doing in Uzbekistan. The university that I was going to at the time, it was a Malaysian faculty in Tashkent State Technical University, and we were they were teaching everything in English. It was one of the kind universities, one of the kind of places. We had excellent professors, so I was quite content. But you know, everybody was doing it. I'm like, might join the fun and do it, and I passed. So that's how I ended up in the United States. But I've been to many countries now. I don't think I want to retire here for sure. I think you know, one of my most favorite places in the world is New Zealand. It's probably that's where I want to go and retire. If you guys are interested, for whoever wants to see some of my photography, stick around. I'll show that at the end. Okay, anybody else? Let's come on, make it lively. I'm bored to death talking for 2 hours. I need to hear some questions. All right, guys, whoever wants to ask, just unmute your microphone and shoot away.
Do you want to come back to Uzbekistan?
Wait. How about this? Let's make it fair to others. So before you ask your next question, let's give the opportunity to others. Okay, so who wants to ask a question? Shoot, guys.
Can I ask, sir?
Sure.
So, to be honest, you just left a mark on us because I have never deeply thought about tips that you shared with us.
Okay.
And so, and my question is like, currently I don't have a question to you, but in foreseeable future, maybe I will have a question. But can you share your contacts with us in case we have a question?
Just Google me. You'll find me on Google. I'm everywhere. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, it's just my last name at gmail.com, but that's my email address. But, you know, if you just Google me, you'll end up on my website, and you can just go to contact information or contact form and just type whatever question you want. And, you know, I value, so keep this in mind. I travel a lot. Okay. So I do want to be honest. I travel a lot. Sometimes I'm not by my computer. I might respond much later. And sometimes I miss some of the emails. That just happens. And, you know, life gets busy. So if I don't respond right away, don't get disappointed. I'm not ignoring you. So if you guys have any questions, shoot away. That's perfectly fine with me. But I can tell you one more thing. Okay. Most of the questions related to this stuff, you can go back through this presentation, and this is a very random, a lot of things that I wrote here are kind of random thoughts, thinking out loud. But whatever questions you have related to this, Gulsara is also very experienced. She's very smart. We went through the same scholarship program as her. I've known her for many years, since like 2000. So we've known each other for like 20 years. So, and there are tons of people out there just like us. Don't think that I'm someone special, and don't think that I'm someone who can give you something that no other people can. You would be completely wrong about that. But don't be scared that I'm not going to respond. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sometimes I might not be very responsive, and that's because I'm not there. Now, during COVID, I'm at home. So if you have any questions now, within the next few days, I'm going to be at home. So no problem. If you can't think of a question now, no problem. You can ask me later. Just saying, like, if a year or two down the road, just make sure that you reintroduce yourself. Hey, my name was Asılbek Usmanov, and I was one of the participants in this thing that you gave, a lecture, blah, blah,
I
blah.
will do.
Yeah,
I will
and
do, sir.
that's totally fine. All right, anybody else? Come on, guys, shoot me questions. Seriously, you gotta be more lively than that. You're sitting in front of your computer. Don't be afraid. Okay, like I said, don't be afraid of anything. First of all, this is what I teach my kids all the time. Don't be afraid of anybody or anything. Don't be shamed. If you would rather ask a question in Russian or Uzbek or Turkish, shoot away. Come on.
Okay, so I guess it was at the beginning of your speech, and you said that we shouldn't watch TV, Marvel movies, and some Star Wars. And
Wait.
uh,
Can I correct myself there? Okay, or can I slightly modify what you just said? I did not say not to watch anything. I said don't
limit.
waste your time doing it. There's a big difference, okay? And I'll tell you, Marvel movies, I love them. I watched every single one of them. And I do that all the time with my kids, but we do it once a week. Okay, we get together like Friday, Saturday, and we watch one episode. We don't binge watch. You know, there's a concept of binge watching. Have you guys heard of it? Like, we're gonna sit down and, you know, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna sit down and watch all the Star Wars at once, or we're gonna sit down and watch all the Marvel movies at once. No, that's what I'm saying. Don't do. Okay, just take your time. It's okay. It's perfectly okay to be entertained, to go to places, to do the things that I told you, like to hang out with friends. Totally do all of that. Remember, too much is a problem. Okay, so go ahead, Margarita. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I just wanted to clarify that.
okay, that was my question actually. And I have one more about a lot of things. Like you said, it's always bad if something a lot. What about knowledge?
A lot of knowledge is bad. Ooh, you don't want that. Your brain has a certain capacity. Okay, you're not the God. You're not some like crazy being that has limitless opportunities to learn. We reach a certain capacity level after which we start forgetting things and whatnot. Knowledge, too much knowledge is bad. I mean, if you're gonna sit and read every moment of your time, don't do that. That's wasteful, because what you're doing is, you know, one of the concepts that I have is like this. You do something until you get bored, and then you just switch the task to something else. So, you know, if you're reading a book and you've done an hour of it, it's hurtful to sit in the same position with your legs locked, or lay down in the same position and destroy your neck. It's not good for you. So go out and take a walk for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and do something else. Go and sweep the street, do some physical exercise. You have to combine things. Don't assume that, you know, you just, all the stuff that I told you about, again, anything of too much is too much, including knowledge. Okay, I'm not saying be crazy nerds, because nobody likes those. Okay, at the end of the day, if you're gonna be this crazy nerd and everybody's fascinating with your knowledge, and you know they're fascinated by your knowledge and they think you're some pure genius, what does that give you? You just learned nothing about living a life. At the end of the day, remember what I told you about the crazy scientist from Russia. You know, he was a crazy scientist. He could tell you all about nuclear weapons and lasers and all that. He couldn't get his life together. He kept on divorcing women and marrying somebody. He was a mess. He couldn't hold a conversation. You know, he would tell the crazy things. That's how it is. So these people, you got to have a balance, okay? In this life, this is another thing I didn't write about, but remember this. In this life, everything's about balance. You cannot do something too much of. You got to counterbalance with something else. That's when it becomes a normal act. So if you hang out with friends, balance it with some reading. If you do a lot of reading, balance it with cleaning your home. If, you know, or hang out with your whatever, brother, sister, do things that are going to give you more interesting things and you can be more versatile, because knowledge is not the only thing that matters. Remember, I talked about successful people. There are tons of bookworms out there, super smart people, and they can't figure their lives out. I can tell you I met many smart people, but at the end of the day, a lot of them were meaningless to me. They weren't even a source of inspiration. I mean, so what if you can answer every question on TV when they have these shows for smart people? Who gives a damn? You're gonna sit there and you're gonna answer them. Good for you. Well, that's all I can say. If you're not in that television show, how useful is that? Does that answer the question?
Yes, I got you. Thanks.
All
Thank you
right.
for your excellent speech. It was really interesting and useful.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, guys, come on, shoot more. Give it to me. I know people are getting tired. We now have 19 participants. We just dropped like 9 people. Anything, guys. Okay, somebody asked a question privately. Hold on one second. Let me just quickly read it. I want to ask you. Okay, so somebody asked, okay, this is more of a generic question. How is your experience with American life? How about I answer that towards the end as you requested? Do you guys have questions that you want to ask about any of the stuff that we talked about? Or maybe, how about this? If you want to become somebody and you do not know how to, ask me. Anybody? You just don't know how to get, like, I want to become a banker. How do I do that? Come on, shoot me. Shoot me a question. Really? Nobody? Are you guys sleeping? I have a feeling that this is going
Nasim,
south.
I want to ask you a question.
Ask me a question, Gusara, finally.
Okay. First of all, I want to say something more about Nasim, something he hasn't told you guys. When we were on the presidential scholarship and we went abroad, this man has been the one who united everybody on the one platform. Now we have social media. Now we have like all kinds of like applications. But at that time, we only had one forum, and then we had an IRC chat from where like lots of things have happened. Lots, even marriages, you know. Nasim was somebody who was a student and he was initiating it. So now, what I want you to tell the kids, somebody was asking about the media major.
Yep.
And about the major specialization. Can you give, like, you are in United States, and United States still at the like forefront of many, especially business fronts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how important is having a major now? Is it more important to have a major, or is it more important to have a way of thinking?
That's an excellent question. Really, really excellent question. I hope you guys are going to shoot more questions like this. Okay, so the question is, how important is your major? If you were to ask for my honest opinion, it doesn't matter at all. You could graduate in donkey science. Nobody gives a damn. Nobody does. The only thing you will get out of your education today, there's only one thing. Can anybody tell me what it is? Anybody? There's only one thing you will get out of it, including Gusara. What do you think these students are going to get out of their 4-year education?
Well, you know, we have had one project so far, and I was like, most of the students did very well. For many of them, it was the first project, it was the first time, and they did quite well. Like, I think in learning now, you have to be learned to learn and to adapt.
That's a good one, but I'll be honest with you, that's not the one. Okay.
Okay.
The only thing that you will learn from your 4 years of education, you will forget all the stuff that you learn. I can guarantee you, even if you're going to stay in that field, you're going to forget it all. It's not going to matter. What's going to matter is discipline. You will learn how to sit and work your butt off That's it. And this is the most important thing that you are going to get out of your education, is how to sit down and really work. That's it. If you can learn that, that's the best thing you can get out of the 4-year education. Now, if you have a specific specialization, then you know, it's maybe it will help a little bit, but at the end of the day, I graduated with a management and marketing degree. So I could have graduated with